All right, welcome to Inside the 90. Today we have Jake Vancalbergh with Production Saw out of Clark Lake, Michigan. And this is going to be just an organic conversation. Jake and I haven't met. We got introduced through Andrew Geisel, who's the implementer for both of our organizations. And it's actually pretty cool because Jake is authentically in his environment today. So you can hear some background noise, and that's because he's at Production Saw. So, Jake, give us a quick intro to yourself and tell us a little bit about Production Saw.
So I'm Jake Vancalbergh, and I am the Vice President of Operations at Production Saw and Machine. We are a family-owned CNC shop, production CNC shop in Michigan. We mainly serve the automotive industries, but through EOS, we are branching out into other markets. And as you can hear today, I'm out on the shop floor in my office. You can hear, things clanking around and machines running. So things are good.
That's cool. And then, so this is a family business. How long has the family been in it?
50 years this year, actually. It's our 50-year anniversary. So my grandfather started it in 1975. He retired in 95, and my father took over. And he's been here ever since, and he's still here, still kicking. Now it's on the third generation. My brother works here. We've got a cousin, a couple uncles, and, it's truly a family business. So makes it fun.
And then what was your entry point into, professionally joining the business?
My entry point. So I thought I was going to go into the medical field for a little while through college. Played basketball a little bit and got out of college after realizing that maybe the chemistry and biology, some of those higher echelon classes, maybe weren't for me. And I came back. I needed a job, right? So I came back to Clark Lake and asked Dad if I could work for a little while I figured some things out. Ended up running a CNC, which throughout high school, I had worked at the shop a little bit here and there if I wasn't playing sports, and very low level type stuff, right? Like cleaning out coolant tanks, kind of the CNC guys. If there's any CNC guys listening to this, they'll kind of know what I'm talking about. They're mopping floors and washing walls and cleaning coolant tanks and that kind of stuff. And but as I got older after college, I came in and I started running CNCs, and it was kind of cool, right? Something clicked in my brain. Whether it was the math, the coordinate system in which you program parts to, right? You can take a chunk of steel and make it into whatever you want if you know the math and the way to do it. That kind of sparked something in me, and I was kind of like, okay, I'm here, I'm in. This is cool. And ever since then, right, just kind of gradually climbing ladders and moving around to different areas of the shop and to my current position today. So, short and sweet.
What is your role today?
Vice President of Operations.
Okay.
So I've been everything from down to CNC operator, moved up to a position that we call Spider-Man, but it's more of a water spider type position that kind of facilitates production on a very low level. Gets operators and people the things that they need to keep their machines running. And then I moved up into like a setup supervisor position in programming. And then I managed the lower volume machining department here. And then now I'm in a position where I'm over quality engineering, high volume machining, low volume machining, and our main focus, right, production saw, we do a lot of saw cutting. So saw cutting is the last one.
And so at what point were you introduced to EOS? And, was it someone gave you the book? Did someone tell you about it? How did that intro happen?
Yeah, so that's actually kind of a weird story. So I had heard about EOS. I personally had heard about EOS maybe a year before I even knew what it was. I was listening to a podcast called, can I call out podcasts on this?
Absolutely.
Okay. Called Making Chips. It's three guys out of Chicago. And they're machine shop owners, right? Third generation machine shop owners as well. and it's a really good podcast for me to I kind of click with those guys. And all three of them have run in the past a version of EOS in some way, shape, or form. And I thought some of the tools sounded really cool, but I couldn't really I didn't know it was a whole thing, right? I just kind of heard it in passing on a couple different episodes of their podcast. And then I think maybe a year later or something, it was brought to us by our CFO, who is friends with Andrew, right? Andrew must have polluted Tom's brain with it, and he brought it to us, and he brought it to my dad, and from my dad down to me, and we kind of started what is this thing? What is this? And we did a version of the 90-minute meeting right in the front at the local pizza place with me and Dad and Andrew and Tom, and Andrew really kind of started to explain it. And then we had another 90-minute meeting, but with not even just the leadership team, right? It was kind of funny. At the time, we didn't know who our leadership team was. So we took, I mean, not everybody, obviously. We're about 150 people here.
Okay.
So it was probably about 30 people that we took off site to this 90-minute meeting for Andrew to explain to us what EOS is. And then we had some discussions afterwards for a few weeks and decided to jump on that train.
So for our listeners, Andrew Geisel is our implementer as well. He's Production Saw's implementer that introduced Jake and I, and he's a co-host on the podcast. And he's an awesome EOS implementer and advocate.
Awesome.
Yeah. So during that 90-minute meeting, with 30 employees, I assume Andrew, I don't know if there was a whiteboard there, if he was just talking, but he draws out, every business hits a ceiling, right? And he tells that story. There was definitely a
whiteboard, and definitely Andrew all over it, and erasing and writing something else. Yeah, he's all over those things.
What do you remember at that point in time when you were hearing that with 30 of your team members in the room, like what that ceiling was in your head? Or did y'all know, like, hey, we're hitting the ceiling and this is what we got to break through?
I don't. I kind of have the memory of a goldfish sometimes, right? I don't know if there's other manufacturing people out there. Maybe it's true in other industries too, but I feel like I just kind of lose it sometimes. But, I do remember I knew I had read Traction up until this point, right? I read it and I was listening in and kind of watching the others more than I was listening to Andrew, because I had already had mine, right? With Dad and Tom and them. And I was really trying to watch the others to see who was receptive and who wasn't. And it's really kind of funny looking back and thinking about the people that weren't receptive to it. They're not members of the team anymore. It's kind of, and it's not like it was very organic, right? It wasn't like, oh, those people didn't believe in it. Now we're moving forward without them. I mean, like I said, we've been doing this for 3 years now or so, 3 or 4 years, I think. And over that 3 or 4 years, they just slowly didn't fit into that system anymore. And it's kind of crazy looking back to it. I haven't thought about it until just now, actually. That's interesting.
What do you think it was? I mean, was that core values alignment? Was it an accountability? Was it, what was it, self-selecting? Like, hey, this is just not for me.
No, I think you hit the nail right on the head. I think it's right in that order. I think it was core values, and I think it was accountability. I mean, it's pretty easy, especially, we run on 90, right? I'm sure a lot of EOS based companies do. When you can see yours and other people's rocks and scorecard items and they're on track or off track, and if you're not comfortable in that accountability, you're not going to last long. And it's funny, one of our core values is being comfortable in accountability.
Oh wow,
yeah. So it's kind of perfect, and yeah, I mean, to be real honest, the core values, I think if PSM if EOS fell off tomorrow for whatever reason, and we kept one thing. If we were allowed to keep one thing, we would keep our core values. It was such a good change and kind of realization moment for us when we developed our core values, right? And that probably was a focus day or vision building, one of those two. It was such an eye-opening, like, oh, this is the piece that I think we've been missing, is hiring and firing and rewarding and, you know, all that stuff. And it's not just employees, it's customers, it's suppliers, it's amazing what knowing who the right people are for us will do for you in every aspect, you know.
Can I put you on the spot and ask you what your core values are?
Yeah.
Get them all?
It's easy. So the first, I mean, not that they're ranked, but the first one that I always talk about is building relationships. And the second is getting things done. The third is accountability. That one kind of started as being comfortable in accountability, but we've shortened it up a little bit. And then the fourth one that kind of gets everybody all riled up is give a damn. And that one, as you can imagine, has gone up and down the profanity level. we've settled that damn.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Well, and so you talk about that and I'm on the spot too. Don't remember if it is Focus Day or VB1, but yes, one of those first two sessions, you do your core values and you know, Andrew has a really cool way that he took us through that.
Yeah. I was so I'm going to tell you how he did it. Tell me.
Yeah.
So we thought of we each had to think of. I think at that time on our leadership team, I think we had 8 or 9 people, maybe 7 or 8, something like that. And we all thought of people that embodied Production Saw's spirit, right? Am I on the right track? Is this the same thing? Yeah. So, and then through that, right, we all have, okay, I've got these 5 names. The guy next to me's got these 5 names. Maybe they're different. We put all those names up on the board. And then whoever has, right, whatever the common names were, of those 3, maybe there were 3 common names I think that there were at the time. And then we list out what the characteristics are of those 3 people, right? That kind of make them Production Saw people. And then what are the common characteristics between those 3 people? And those are our core values.
Yeah.
So you're literally taking your core values from who you see as top performers today. So I've told that story. I've told that story to customers, and they love it, right? Because they truly feel that, like, we're taking those core values from the people that we view as top performers and putting that on ourselves and holding ourselves accountable to those values. You know, it's extremely profound, right? What that can do for a business, just that one thing out of EOS, and it is, just one part.
It's foundational, though, very foundational.
Yeah. And everything I feel like comes from that, and it's changed the way that we do a lot of stuff.
What? So you talked about having 30 people in that 90-minute meeting, and then getting to a leadership team or 8 or 9 people. What did it look like to go from that to that focus day with that team? And then what was your process to roll it out to the organization? Yeah.
So we had 30, and then we had, I think, like I said, 8 or 9, maybe that's a little high, maybe 6 or 7 on the leadership team. We let EOS run just in our leadership team for, I want to say at least probably 6 months to a year. I think we did that, and a lot of people, they didn't know what the meeting was that we were in. All these core people, right? We were in this hour and a half long meeting every Wednesday, and they didn't really know what was happening in there, right? It was kind of like this secret, sort of, not really a secret, but it kind of felt like it to them, especially to the people that had been in that first 90-minute meeting. And then very slowly, right? Like I said, there's 150 people here. We've kind of fluctuated from 130 to 160, kind of on average over the last 4 years. So, but we have, with that, right, comes a lot of teams, right? You can't have 150 direct reports. So, so there's a lot of teams and a lot of layers and a lot of different levels and different teams that EOS needs to be rolled out to. So it took us a long time to kind of get that, to get us as a leadership team trained on EOS well enough to be able to run it ourselves with our own specific group, and then so on and then so forth, right? You got to if there's 4 or 5 layers to this, and that 5th layer also needs to have maybe it's a 10-minute, 15-minute stand up, maybe not even call it an L10 or something like that, right? But they need to be in something that's structured, and they need to know how it works, and they need to know what the core values are, and they need to know what the people analyzer is, and they need to know, right? It takes time. It takes a lot of time, but it's so worth it. It's so worth it in the end, especially in an organization as big as us, right? Everybody speaks the same language now, as far as L10s, and like I said, people analyzer and GWCs and that kind of stuff. We all kind of know it, makes things easy.
Yeah. I say every culture has a little cult. Every cult has a common language.
Yes. Yeah.
What? So we haven't talked about this, but my family owns 4th generation business. I'm not in it.
Okay.
But my father is 80. He actually still works in the business. My brother works in the business. My brother's son works in the business. So I understand the pros and cons that come along with family, multi-generational family businesses.
Sure.
What for y'all, at what point how clear was it on who was going to be visionary, who was going to be integrator, who was going to be on leadership team? Like, how did that work?
Yeah, that's funny. So you're absolutely right? Family businesses, the best way to describe it is interesting. It's just interesting.
Yeah.
So at first, my father was the visionary, and it was kind of decided upon almost, I think, looking back at it, I think because I knew a lot about EOS, it felt like I was kind of not, I wouldn't even say voted in. It was kind of like that decision as to be the integrator. And it didn't last. It did not last, right? What it came down to, I think, was at the time I was managing a small department within the plant. It was probably 20, 30 people, something like that. About 15% of the complete sales of the organization, and I just wasn't ready, right? I wasn't ready to be the integrator of a big company like that. Just because I knew enough about EOS didn't mean I was a good integrator. So if there's anybody out there that's thinking about EOS and you're not there yet, it's okay. It's okay, because you'll get there. But take a step down from integrator. My uncle, who manages the other part of the shop, he went on to be integrator for a little while. Also didn't work, because he has a full-time job, and that integrator seat needed somebody who could kind of float on top, right? Float on top and also dive into a certain silo if they needed to. So he took a step back, and then my father was the visionary / integrator. That was probably the longest stint of anybody being in that integrator seat for us, and that also didn't work, right? Because you can't be both. You can think that you're both all you want.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't work. You can't look forward and look inward at the same time. You have to, maybe in smaller companies, right? I don't know. Like I said, it's a 150 person company. I don't know what it's like in a 5-person company. Maybe you can be both, but here you just can't do both at the same time. And so Tom, who introduced us to Andrew in the first place, he's our fractional CFO, and so we have a fractional integrator now in Tom. Tom is our fractional integrator and fractional CFO, and it's working very well. It's like we finally found that piece, you know.
Yep.
It's like, man, it's not. It's even though we're a 150 person company, right? We're all very experienced in our own silos, so we're all pretty good. But we do need that person in town to be able to kind of float on top of us and make sure that our things are going okay. And then also you need that person like my dad, like Jeff, to be looking outward and planning for the future and having like the visionary. What's the trait of the visionary that we all kind of laugh about is they'll have 100 ideas and 4 of them are good, but you got because they're the boss, you still got to listen to the other 96, right?
Yeah.
Okay, no, that's not a good idea, and he leaves the office. But the next one that he comes with, oh my God, it changes the way we do something out there, you know, and yeah, he's the epitome of a visionary, and it's good that he can finally fully visionary, you know. So it was a very that in and of itself was a very interesting shake up, right? I tell you, going into the focus day, all of the thought, all of the mental capacity was all on the accountability chart. You know, probably because it was family business.
Yeah.
It felt like, what is this vehicle going to do for us? And to be honest, we were somewhat of a unhealthy team. I wouldn't call it completely unhealthy, but it was definitely less healthy than we are today. You know, as far as that Patrick Lencioni book was
the 5 dysfunctions of a team.
5 dysfunctions, right? That first one, that trust, right? That real level of trust in that leadership team with me and my uncle and my dad and his brother and my brother and his uncle, right? All that, to be able to say the thing that we think without feeling like we're going to get right. I trust you with what I'm about to say. EOS has helped us become a more healthy team and made we've made organizational and accountability chart changes in the last 3 months that we would have never made if we hadn't started EOS, let alone, unfathomable changes 4 years ago, you know?
So that was actually going to be my question. Once you had visionary and integrator defined, how did that impact the vision? And before we dig into the daily right now, like what changes did that make to the vision of Production Saw?
I think it allowed the 2 guys at the top there, Tom and Jeff, to spend their time thinking about the vision, thinking about the future, and kind of organizing their thoughts and shaping things in such a way that we've never had a formal sales and marketing team. You know, and it sounds crazy. We've never had it in 50 years, you know, and we do now. In the last 3 months, we've developed one, and we've had to, because in the CNC world, the contract manufacturing market, we've got one big customer that makes up about 65-70% of what we do, and they've just always kind of filled us up with this transmission's work, and then the next transmission's work, and then the next transmission's work. Right? It's just kind of always come and gone, and as of late, right, there's no more transmissions. There's no new ones anyways, right? We're continuing to make the highest gear ratio possible. And there's no new ones because of EVs and stuff like that. So we needed that sales force and that sales focus to help us diversify. And we've finally gotten there where we have a group of people within Production Saw's umbrella, W-2 employees, right? Just working on sales, just working on estimates. You know, we've never had that before. It was always part of my job as a manager of this department was to call and take care of my customers and quote all the jobs and then see the jobs through and right all the way from soup to nuts, if you want to call it that. And we're starting to silo that a little bit and kind of give that function a position, right? And it's been hugely beneficial. I mean, I'll tell you, I locked my door just now, not before we started this meeting, and put a sign on my door that there's a meeting in progress, because I constantly have people coming in because we're so busy, you know.
Yeah.
And I can almost completely attribute that to having a full presence in our sales and marketing department.
So, with that visionary integrator role in place, we talk about vision, traction, and healthy. So what's, from a traction perspective, when do you feel like the organization started feeling like, hey, this is actually starting to take hold? We're getting momentum with this.
I would say probably last year around this time, actually. I feel like with the quarterlies and the annuals, when we walk out of a quarterly with a unified goal between all of us, right? I'm a big proponent of there being one goal. There is one goal at the end of the day, right? And it's to make money, or it's to diversify, or it's to whatever that is. And if we all walk out of that quarterly with that goal in mind, right, we're all rowing in that same direction, that quarter is going to be really good. We've seen that before. And those rocks, right, our rock completion rate is going to be great. I would say around last year around this time, we've really started, maybe I guess I might be conflating. It might be a year and a half to 2 years ago. We started really leaving these quarterlies with like that North Star, that thing, right? And that's when we see the traction, and the quarterlies have helped bad quarters. I'll tell you, bad quarters have helped us have better quarterlies, which have helped us have better quarters. Right?
Yeah.
It's kind of funny how that goes. And in the first 3, if not 4, maybe the first 4 quarters were just terrible. Just terrible. They got better, right? Each one of them got better, but man, looking back at even like the 3rd or 4th quarter that we've had with EOS, it's terrible compared to the last 2. It's wild,
And you said y'all are 3 years in?
I think 3 or 4. Yeah, honestly, I'd have to do the math. Like I said, it's a little goldfishy, right? It's just everything kind of blurs. But I think we just had our 3rd annual.
Okay.
This past January, I'm headed into the Q1 quarterly here next Wednesday, actually. So, but I think we're working on our 4th year. So even before I knew of EOS, I had seen these patterns in what I called large initiatives, especially in corporate organizations, where it takes 18 months to really do something meaningful. And I would say it takes 6 months to figure out what to do, 6 months to do it, and 6 months to measure the results. And then EOS comes in and, 2-year rollout before people are graduating out of it. And I always try to tell people, specifically those that are self-implementing, because I think you give up quicker when you're self-implementing. Yeah. But when you're working with an implementer, reinforcing that idea that there's a reason that there's a schedule, that there's a cadence, and that this is a 2-year program. Yeah.
Because to get the traction to lead to healthy, it takes that intentionality and that time.
Yeah. I mean, we're still working with Andrew today, and like I think it's 3 or 4 years that we've been doing this. And we love using them for our quarters, our quarterlies and our annuals, because it's a good way for our integrator Tom or my dad or myself, right? Instead of trying to run that meeting and make sure that things are kind of on schedule, we walk out of there with something good. We can kind of sit back and participate, right? It feels more relaxing, but really it's more work, right, to participate than it is to lead it. But if you can participate in it yourself, it feels really good. Actually, I like having an implementer so much for our leadership team. I'm trying to think of a cadence in which I can do that for the quarterlies directly underneath me, where I run their quarterlies, and that person can just kind of sit back and participate. And then the same thing with my quarterly that I run with my operations team. I might even think about that this upcoming quarter to bring Tom in as he's our integrator, right, and have him kind of implement or whatever, our quarterly.
How far in the organization of 150 employees? How many are actively in an L10?
Probably 40 to 50, maybe.
Okay.
Probably. So not as pervasive, right? I mean, that 100. There's about 90 to 100 people in this shop that make parts, and I can't justify pulling them off the floor to be a part of a planning session, right? Because their view for the day is right now, and it is today. It is how many parts I'm getting off that machine. That's their metric, right? That's their scorecard item. It's actually funny because they're the easiest ones to have scorecard items for. It's the level directly above them that supervisory support, engineering, tech-ish type role that I'm having a very difficult time trying to find scorecard items for. I'll find them, and we're working on it. I've got my engineering manager working on it, and but scorecard items work really well for those people, and they work really well for people like myself, and maybe a couple layers down. But there is a small thin layer that's very difficult looking for scorecard items, but it's fun. It's fun to think.
Do the production team, do they understand how their metrics roll all the way up?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yes, very much. Yeah, definitely. It's plastered almost all everywhere throughout the shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. Our our state of the business, I guess, if you will, our scorecard, our VTO, all that stuff's plastered out across the shop. It's one of the things we talk about when we bring on new hires is, hey, this is your production efficiency, right? This is what this means. This is how this rolls into this posting here, right? Our scorecard posting. But I take the efficiency of each individual department, and they know that their efficiency gets rolled up into that. So.
And what, as far as rolling out those core values to the organization, how did you go from, we've got leadership, we've got an L10, we've got other L10s and people in that. Now, how did you begin to roll that, whether it was called EOS or not, but the components out?
Yeah, no, we took our core values and we did some graphic design work, right? We posted them out across the shop, but until you actually talk about them and like really live them throughout every day, they kind of just sit there, right? So a couple of things that we did is we put them into our reviewing system. So we do somewhat of a people analyzer on everybody. Everybody yearly, I think, has different cadences depending on how long you've been here for, but everybody gets graded plus minus for their fit and core values right off the bat. They also get it when they interview with us. So throughout that interviewing process, I'll give them somewhat of a, okay, I think you're a plus in this and this and this and this, right? And that's how we deem if they're a good fit for us or not. And I let them see that,
Yeah.
We'll just let them see it. Another way that we've done it is we've done what we call our fourth core values, give a damn, right? We give people like a certificate that says that such and such receives this give a damn award for doing this and this, right? I caught you doing something good, and this is the certificate that says that you gave a damn today doing this thing, right? We've taken that in the last couple of years and we call it caught you doing something good, and you can drop down and pick what core value we saw them exhibiting. So now we can reward them for the getting things done core value, reward them for the give a damn or the accountability or building relationships, right? And then they can take those and they get at our employee luncheons every month. They can do an extra spin on the wheel for a prize on the table, and we do some cool employee engagement stuff like that with the core values. I mean, our HR gal is kind of one of those. She's one of those ladies that will stand up at the party and talk. We're all manufacturing guys. We don't like to, we're not outwardly extroverts that want to stand up in front of a bunch of people and be that person. So it's really nice having her do this kind of stuff. But she's got the microphone and she's pointing to people and saying, "You give me you give me a core value. You give me a core value." And they rattle it off, and they know. The people out on the floor, they know them all. It's really kind of cool to see that over the last 4 years or so. It's interesting.
Yeah, that's what I'm passionate about is building brands from the inside out. And I think that EOS does a good job of giving that foundation. But I like when you hear language that's unique with each client, and not each client, but each organization that we interview, because like when you say give a damn, like your team knows that, right? You didn't choose that out of a book.
No.
It's like, hey, it's like people understand, like, hey, that's us. That's who we are.
Yep.
And the more authentic it is, the more they buy into it.
Yep.
And then the more they buy into it, the more your customers now feel that in their engagement.
100%. I've had meetings with suppliers and given them, right, we've talked to them about core values and how we can choose the people who we work with, right? And we've done that with to be quite honest, I don't know if I want to say this publicly, but we've done that with customers, where they don't fit our core values. And we don't want to work with people who don't fit our core values, right? And it served us pretty well so far, and it's made it so that the people that deal with customers, the people that deal with suppliers, the people that deal with employees, and the people that deal with, like everybody, deal with the people that work at Production Saw Machine. We like coming to work because we like the people that we work with, whether they're external or internal, because we're all kind of cut from that same cloth, or at least obviously not 100% RPRS, but right person, right seat. But we're getting there. We're a lot closer than we've ever been.
Yep.
So. Yeah.
Well, and with a quarterly next week, do you have your rocks done?
I'm 1 for 2. I'm 1 for 2 right now. I'm sprinting on the last one. Yeah. Not in a good way on the last one, but I'm working on it.
We've had to say that, all right, it used to be, hey, they're due on the before the quarterly, right?
Yeah.
And then everybody's cramming up till the day, and they're like, no, they're due a week earlier than the quarter. And then everybody does them and doesn't tell anybody. So now we've said that they have to be presented to the leadership team the week before the quarterly. And that now puts a different layer of accountability on there to say that, all right, you got to share them with others.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. We might need to do that for next time to keep me accountable, I guess, to that last one. Yeah, and two of, I think I have 2 of the 4 company rocks this quarter, and I'll get it done. Yeah.
What so EOS has the 6 key components, and then it has the 20 tools, and those 20 tools, whether it's L10s or GWC or 555 or Colby, I find that different people kind of latch on to different tools and say, like, this has really been something meaningful that, if anyone's doing EOS or considering about EOS, I highly recommend you understand this one. What would that tool be for you?
I'm going to have a hard time not going with probably the People Analyzer, because I think it encompasses a lot of stuff, right? I think the having the right person in the right seat is obviously the end goal of the People Analyzer, and I can't say enough about the feeling if you've never had the right person in the right seat directly underneath you, or directly above you, I guess, then you don't know, and you don't know the feeling of what it's like to have that person in that role. And it's like a weight's lifted off your shoulders and you didn't even realize it. You didn't even realize you had a weight on you the whole time. So if you can get really good at living and dying by the People Analyzer and really being honest with it too, right? Not just pencil whipping the plus, really kind of giving it some thought. Does this person have the time? That was one of the concerns that we had with Tom, and originally was the time, the capacity, right? Well, not his mental acuity, that's for sure. That guy's smarter than the wit, but the time, because he's fractional, he's balancing some other stuff, right? Do you have the time to be the integrator? And we had that open and honest conversation with him, and he said yes, and he hasn't let us down yet, so it must be yes, But we had that conversation, and we would have never had it if it wasn't for the people analyzer. And just this morning, right? We ran a people analyzer the other day because of some incidents that we've had on the floor with a certain individual. And this morning, I came in at 6 a.m. along with another couple of people, and we let go of a person who ended up not being a core value fit. Unfortunately, this person was a 20-year employee, and he, slowly but surely became less and less of a core value fit because I think some of the accountability stuff is starting to get to him. A little lesser of an abrupt departure as some of the other folks in that first 30 days. I think he stuck around as long as he felt like he could. But I have a hard time not attributing that to EOS and accountability structures, and then us identifying it pretty quickly once it started to kind of go downhill. So I'd have a hard time not saying the people analyzer, to be honest. I think it's changed the way that we've you think about things. Maybe the best way to do things sometimes is to really think about a situation for a while, right? Take your time thinking about all the different options, do the people analyzer. But once that people analyzer says, and you're confident in what it says, and it says the thing that you needed to say about, letting somebody go or bringing somebody on, make that decision and you go quick. You do it right now.
Just curious, and letting that person go, was it a surprise to them?
No.
Not the letting go, but the core values part, like with.
No, I don't think so at all. I don't think so at all. If it was, it would have been a lot more, but it was, he definitely understood, definitely understood. And that's what you want, right? You don't want it to be a surprise. And I don't think he was surprised at all. I think that he's known, obviously we've had our talks with him, and we've shown him the people analyzer over the last 2 or 3 years, and he's seen it kind of go and go and go and go. And, sometimes you got to do what you got to do, and EOS allows you to do that.
From on the people analyzer with the roles and the function, do y'all have really clear, job descriptions or the roles defined in that? Yeah.
I think we've gotten a lot better at it. By all means, right, 150 people is kind of it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work defining all those roles and what each one, and how this one's different than this one, right? That's an interesting one. But we do, and they're pretty generic, to be honest. But we've gotten better at it for sure. Yeah, over time.
Now I found the first time. So I was part of an organization where we rolled the people analyzer out. To where it was new, right? It wasn't, we hired into it and people understood it. And what I found is the very first time you roll it out to someone is you explain the framework and you have the core values and then you have their roles and you ask them to self-assess. I've found that in that first conversation, when they're giving you feedback for the first time, that they're more critical a lot of times on themselves
100%.
And more telling than it would be if the manager had given it to them the first time. So I always recommend people do it the first time with them self-assessing. And then from that point forward, they've established the baseline and now you're giving them that feedback moving forward.
100%. I think I've had very similar conversations with people. It's like, really? I think you're doing all right, man.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Well, running on time here at the end, though, I'd like to ask, y'all didn't self-implement. You've been formally implementing for 3 or 4 years. What's your tip to someone who's self-implementing on EOS now and thinking about hiring an implementer? Like what advice would you give them?
Oh man, I I would definitely interview some implementers. Definitely find somebody who's right for you. I'll tell you, one of our biggest concerns was that Andrew was not from manufacturing.
Yeah.
We thought, to be real honest, we thought, well, nobody knows us because we're in manufacturing. And EOS is this thing and this tech and marketing type stuff, right? They're not going to understand us. And boy, were we wrong. Every organization is kind of the same in some ways, and I think EOS does a good job of kind of bridging that gap. So if you think that your business is a one-off and you EOS isn't for you, I think that it is. But as you interview implementers, don't be critical of their past and industries that they've been in, because that sometimes that crossover is really good for you. That's what I would have to say. I think.
Awesome. Well, Jake, this has been a really cool conversation. Appreciate you taking the time to do it, and hopefully we'll through an EOS event or through Andrew, or we can maybe meet in person and shake hands one day.
Yeah, that'd be great. I'd appreciate you having me, man. This was a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, go have an awesome Friday afternoon and a good weekend.
All right, you too, man.